Hi guys, it looks like Nigel Farage is getting his grievances ready as Labour plan to build 1.5 million homes. And he's hitting all the bases here, claiming that the government will ignore councils and local residents and pave over woods and farmland. Farage also says in this segment that schools, GPs and other services will not be available, just miles and miles of houses. He is right about one thing, and it involves the idea of getting foreign workers in to build the houses. Have a listen to this.
Good evening. Well, in common with the last government, there is a target to build 1.5 million homes during the lifetime of this Parliament. It's just that Labour seem to be rather more determined to do it because they are quite prepared to totally override local district, county councils, local unitary authorities. They are just going to do it. And this includes redefinitions of what counts as green belt land. Some of it potentially being designated as being grey belt. Now, if this comes to disused garages or empty car parks or vacant pubs, well, you might say that all makes sense. But there will be, especially across the home counties, real, genuine worry about what it means for green spaces, about what it means for gaps in between villages. And by the way, when all these houses get built, there'll be no more GPs, no more school places, no more roads. No, your quality of life will diminish directly as a result of this. Now, whether they can actually meet the target, I very much doubt, without importing huge amounts of foreign labour, which of course in turn will mean even more demand for houses. Right now, we have to provide one new home every 2 minutes just to keep pace with levels of immigration in this country. So the truth of it is, we must build every greenbelt land all over our nation just to house those that have come into this country in the course of the last 10 years.
Okay, so what are we going to see going forward? Are we going to see Nigel Farage chaining himself to trees so that they're not bulldozed for property developments? No, probably not that. But I'm pretty sure what he's going to do is instruct his councillors to block certain developments. You notice here the language he's used. Your quality of life is going to diminish. And that's a pretty vague term. He's not talking about quality of life as in the sense of can people get by. He's talking about, well, there won't be schools, there won't be GP surgeries, there won't be a lot of things. And there won't be a lot of things because, well, as we see with GPs, there aren't sufficient numbers of GPs at the moment. And under immigration rules, the current post-Brexit immigration rules, it's very difficult to get GPs in. So, yes, there is going to be a shortage. There is going to be a continuation of shortages until the government bite the bullet and say, look, yeah, we need to welcome more people in. So, when it comes to certain developments, I think you're going to see Reform UK reject them if they're in council seats, for example. Now, Farage is not a neutral commentator, remember. He presents himself as a neutral commentator on GB News, but he's in opposition. His party is in opposition to the Labour government. So if Labour do well, this undermines Reform UK. So of course Farage is not going to cheer on the Labour government. If they're doing something well, he will try and undermine it where possible, be it on GB News or be it through his party at the local level or the national level. He doesn't want Labour to win. He doesn't want them to build 1.5 million homes. Now, whether they can do that is another thing, but he's not going to cheer them on. That must be important to remember. And he's going to thwart them where possible, because it's easy for him to jump on a bandwagon. Oh, look, we need to protect the countryside. We need to protect a piece of heritage. And, in some cases he may be right, but his goal is not whether to be right or wrong. It's about stopping Labour. That's his ultimate goal. Now, when it comes to immigration, he's correct. You're going to have to bring in a lot of workers. And of course, Farage has another bandwagon, of course, to jump on, that being the anti-immigration bandwagon. So you're probably going to see people from GB News visiting developments, checking how many foreign workers are there, asking these foreign workers, are you living in Britain? Where are you living? Do you have accommodation available? So there's, of course, going to be talk about this. But on the wider issue of housing, the government need to approach this in the right way, Because if they don't, it will be an absolute disaster. And while the party will be kicked out of power, ordinary people will suffer the consequences. The types of houses that need to be built also need to be considered, because this is not the 1970s and the 1980s where you had 2.4 children, families with 2.4 children. The style of houses, the types of housing is completely different now. Many more people who are divorced or smaller families, and you have to build accommodation that suits this period in history. Maybe things will change in the future, but at least you need to build houses that are suitable for today. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be expensive. You're going to have to make these houses affordable. So there are significant challenges going forward. Now, I think most reasonable people want Labour to succeed. They want to see enough houses available for people and for young people to be able to get on the property ladder. The last thing they need is somebody like this guy who's trying to undermine it wherever possible. And in some ways, he may be correct when he's against a particular development, but in many cases, it will be political. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.